Hey there, everyone. This is Rachel Berg, and I am very, very excited to talk to you guys today about this topic that is near and dear to my heart, and that is kids and brain health. So let's jump in and get started. So, first, I want to introduce myself. So, this is me, this is my family. I am a speech language pathologist, I am a certified natural health professional. I'm also a mom, a wife, and a business owner. So in the picture, you'll see my husband Kyle, you'll see me, my daughter Olive, and then you see little baby number two there. This picture was probably taken about 10 weeks ago, so I am about 36 weeks pregnant now. So I am due with baby number two pretty much any day now. So I am very, very pregnant. So a little bit about me and kind of my background. So I am a speech language pathologist by trade, and I've always had a passion for kids. So I've always just known I want to work with kids. And then I kind of, went the speech therapy route. And when I was in college, I kind of stumbled into Young Living. And within that, I became really passionate about natural health as well. So I went and got my certified natural health professional certificate. And, within this amount of time, my husband and I got married, we started our family, and all of this is happening while I grew my Young Living business and while I was going to grad school to be a speech therapist. And, of course, it all kind of happened at the same time. But once I got into the field as a speech language pathologist or a speech therapist, some people say, I started working with kids that had various needs. So I initially started out in an elementary school working with kids from kindergarten to about fourth grade. Now I'm in early childhood, so I work with 3 to 5 year olds. But I was working with kids with various needs, and various disabilities and abilities. So some were struggling with regulating themselves, some were struggling with focusing and attention, some learning, and things like that. And as I started to work with these kids and really get to know them, I started to wonder, is there something else? Is there something we're missing? Is there something going on that maybe, is there something more to this? So I started doing some research and I combined my background knowledge of the brain and language development, child development from my speech therapy world. And I combined that with my knowledge of natural health from my Young Living CNHP world. And that kind of developed into my passion and my why and why I do what I do. And that is to educate you and other families on the importance of brain health in kids and everyone, of course, because, of course, our brain health is important too as adults. But to educate and then to empower you and other families to make confident decisions for your family. So I do have to apologize. As I'm doing this recording, being 36 weeks pregnant, I lose my breath very easily, even as I talk. And, if I'm really passionate about something, it happens easier. So please bear with me if it sounds like I'm running out of breath. But I have a bigger picture and a bigger vision, and that's just to positively impact as many people as I possibly can with this information, with the hopes to start a movement to increase awareness of overall brain health and its importance in how our kids develop and go through life and how easily they're able to access things in life. So, of course, this isn't a quick fix thing, it's really all about a lifestyle change. And if you're within Young Living, you kind of know this already, or you're familiar with this, that it's all about creating a lifestyle. So creating a healthy environment for our bodies and our brains, that takes time. It takes education. But I'm really confident that if we all work together and we help each other and we support each other, we can definitely do it. So with that being said, I realize we are all human. We are all human, moms, all of us, we all are doing our best. We're all human. My presentation that I'm going to talk about today, you guys, I'm not meaning to shame anybody. I don't mean to embarrass you. I believe that once we know better, we do better. So with this education, I'm hoping that I can help you guys feel confident with the choices that you're making each day. Because we all do the best with what we have, but once we know better, we do better. And of course, you guys, I'm a young mom. I'm learning too. I don't have it all figured out. I'm researching, but I'm learning too. So I'm just like you, learning every day and doing the best that I can with the knowledge that I have. So just a little disclaimer, the information I'm going to talk about today is meant for educational purposes only. So the statements that I talk about have not been evaluated by the FDA. The presentation is not meant to treat, cure, or diagnose any diseases or anything. So as always, please consult with your doctor before you alter any health plans. All right, so quick outline for today. We are going to talk about how the brain works a little bit. We'll get a little sciencey. We're going to talk about what the brain needs. We're going to talk about things that can impact the brain, and then also ways that we can support the brain. All right, so here is a little picture of the brain. And of course, our brain is so complex, and it is such a beautiful thing, and I can get pretty excited, and I kind of become a nerd when it comes to this stuff. So bear with me if science, this kind of thing, isn't your thing, but this information is important. So a couple fun facts about our brains. Our brains use at least 20% of the oxygen in our whole body. The human brain development does not finish until about age 25. And that is specifically the prefrontal cortex, which is that front part of our brain behind our forehead. And that part of our brain is responsible for impulse control. So if you know any early 20-year-olds, you might be wondering why they're very impulsive. Well, that prefrontal cortex hasn't quite developed yet. But the most rapid development happens between birth and age 5. So like I told you guys, I work with early childhood, those 3 to 5-year-olds. There's so much learning going on in that time frame, and their brains are like sponges. It's pretty cool. Our brain is made up of 75% water, and every time you recall a memory or have a new thought, you're creating a new connection in the brain. And there are 100 billion neurons or nerve cells in the brain, which is pretty crazy, 100 billion. So our brains literally control everything that we do. So even that automatic stuff like breathing or heartbeat, all that stuff we don't even have to think about, our brain is controlling. So it's really important that we're taking care of it and we're taking care of the rest of our body, because that impacts our brain's ability to perform, which impacts our ability to perform, right? So that's especially important in kids because their brains are still developing. So here's in this graphic, here's some portions of the brain and what they do. So if you look on the top left, there's the cerebral cortex. That allows us to be aware of and pay attention to and respond to our surroundings. It powers the ability to think and plan and solve problems and make decisions. So if we think about our kids that are young, that thinking and planning and solving problems, of course that's all relative to their age and what's appropriate, but that part of the brain is important for that kind of thing. Below that is the cerebellum, and that's for like muscular movement, motor stuff, balance, that kind of thing. And then we have the brainstem down in the bottom right. The brainstem is what controls all those automatic things like heart rate, breathing, sleeping. And then at the top right, we have the limbic system. And we're going to talk more about this on the next slide. This is really important. All right, so we have the limbic system. Here's just another picture of the limbic system. So this is what we kind of call the emotional brain. So this is a collection of structures that's in the middle of the brain. And it's not actually a separate system itself, but rather a collection of structures. So like you see in the picture. This center, it's the center for emotional responsiveness, motivation, memory function, smell, and any of those mechanisms that keep us safe, like fight or flight. Sensory processing, time perception, attention, consciousness, motor behavior, all of that is mediated through this collection of structures. So you can see how important it is, especially for our kiddos and what they are required to do once they're in that school age. That memory, attention, consciousness, time perception, as they get a little bit older, being able to know, kind of what time it is when they have to be somewhere, things like that. What the brain needs. So our brain, this is of course just a handful of things our brain needs, but our brains need quite a bit to stay healthy. And our brains can only work with what we give them or what we give it, and it can only do the best with the circumstances that we give it. So, in order for our brain to function optimally, we need to give it these things. And of course, if we are giving our brains poor quality food, not enough sleep, we're not drinking enough water, things like that, of course, it's going to give us poor quality results, right? So we're not going to be able to focus. We're not going to be able to attend. Our mood is going to be up and down and all over the place. And we're not going to be able to perform. And as adults, we might have a little bit of awareness about this, like, oh, I haven't been drinking enough water, I can just tell. But our kids, they're so young, they don't necessarily have that awareness. So we need to help them to have these healthy habits and lifestyles and things like that. So we make sure their brains have what they need to function properly. So we will chat about the healthy environment and the proper nutrition and diet in the next coming slides. So I'm just going to touch on the next few here really quickly. So essential fatty acids, what are they? I could almost do a whole presentation on essential fatty acids. So you guys, I'm going to just give you quick little blurbs because, like I said, I could talk all day about this stuff. So essential fatty acids are things that we have to ingest, we have to eat, or put in, take internally because our body doesn't produce them on its own. And essential fatty acids are based on like the omega-6 group and an omega-3 group. So if you hear something about like omega-3s, omega-6s, those are essential fatty acids that are really important for our brains. Essential fatty acids, they help improve our immunity. They improve cell signaling. They help support mood and brain health. And they decrease inflammation. So, anytime there's inflammation in the body and the brain, that kind of wreaks havoc and it's a downward spiral. So essential fatty acids are really important for our brains and just our overall health. So some sources or ways you could get essential fatty acids are flax seeds, walnuts, chia seeds, wild-caught fish, salmon, sardines, shrimp and scallops, and olive oil. And of course, there's some supplements too, but we'll talk about that later. Exercise and physical activity are also very important for our brains. That's kind of a no-brainer. We've all heard or, there's been research out there that, physical activity and exercise releases those feel-good hormones, which is good for our brains and our whole body. Sleep is kind of another no-brainer. We've heard a lot about sleep. Getting the right amount of sleep and appropriate amounts of sleep impacts our brain's ability to perform and to function. And that proper amount or that recommended amount is different depending on the age. So make sure you go ahead and we can research whatever age of your kid, how many hours of sleep each night they should be getting. Unfortunately, a lot of kids are not getting enough sleep, and you can tell on their performance and their mood and their behaviors when, and I see it every day, kids that I know aren't getting enough sleep. And it's a night and day difference of, if they do and if they don't. So sleep is very important. Vitamin D and B12. These are vitamins that really contribute to brain and nervous system health. And deficiencies in these two can lead to mental decline. And down the road, when we're older and when our kids are older, deficiencies in these could even lead to things like dementia and Alzheimer's. So those two are very important. A healthy gut flora or healthy gut bacteria, there is something called the gut-brain connection. And if you guys don't know much about that, I would Google that or try to do some research. There's a really big connection between our gut or our intestines, our stomach, and our brains and how their ability to function. So healthy gut bacteria is good for our brains and good for our bodies and our immune system in general. And a healthy brain is also good for our gut. So go ahead and do some research on that. There's tons of good stuff out there. And then water. Our brain, like I said, is made up of 75% water. So it only takes 2% of dehydration to affect attention, memory, and other cognitive skills or other things that our brain does. So drinking enough water, of course, helps keep us hydrated, which of course helps our brain function. And other things that can impact the brain for good or for bad. There's the environment, our diet, things that we put on topically or we put on our skin, and then supplements, vitamins, and oils. So we're going to go over some of these and kind of how they impact the brain. So we'll talk about the environment a little bit and some common household chemicals. So our environment, which is like our surroundings, places that we are, that impacts our brain and its ability to function properly, whether we realize it or not. So I'm going to talk about just a couple key chemicals that we might be using in our homes that could be impacting our brains negatively. So of course, unfortunately, there's a lot of chemicals out there that are in common household products, cleaning products, things like that. I'm going to hit just on two of them today because, again, this is a topic I could do a whole presentation on, and I just want to keep it short and sweet for you guys and give you some information. So fragrance is a huge, huge one. The word fragrance, if you're looking at an ingredient label on something and it says fragrance on there, that can represent an undisclosed mixture of up to 3,000 different chemicals. So if you see the word fragrance on a candle or a cleaner, that one word could contain any amount and any mixture of 3,000 different chemicals, which is terrifying to me. Fragrance, if you have some short-term toxicity, that might look like some coughing, some skin irritation, rash, wheezing, headaches, irritability. Does anybody know anybody that's irritable or gets a lot of headaches? Like, think about maybe what's in their environment. What are they being exposed to? Now, long-term toxicity could include things like cancer, lung disease, heart disease, endocrine disruption, and reproductive complications. And this is all research, you guys. If you go ahead and Google, and like I said, I'm really into empowering you and empowering other families to be confident in your choices. I'm really into do your own research, check it out, be skeptical. So go ahead and Google fragrance. What is fragrance? Harmful side effects of fragrance. And you'll come up with research articles that have been done on the effects of long-term exposure to fragrance. And these things come up. It blows my mind, and yet it's still allowed. It's still allowed in just about everything. And that's the part that's really frustrating to me is fragrance is found in just about everything. You'll find it in candles, air fresheners, lotions, cosmetics, plug-ins, antibacterial wipes, cleaners. The list goes on and on and on. So just really be aware of that. That is not a good word to see on an ingredient list. Parabens are another big one. These are synthetic preservatives. These can mimic hormones in the body and can disrupt functions of the endocrine system, which the endocrine system is controlled by the brain, so it affects our brain. These can also mimic estrogen and disrupt the body's hormone system, which is also located in the brain. Parabens can be found in foods, pharmaceuticals, personal care products, cosmetics, etc., on and on. Another thing you don't want to see on your ingredient list is the word parabens. So again, this is something you can do research on as well. Go ahead and Google it. Look, go under WebMD and see if there's any research articles out there. This is information that I've researched and found. I didn't just come up with it. So this stuff is out there, unfortunately. So some ideas, on a positive note, some ideas to kind of swap some of these things out. So here's a little graphic I made for you guys. Just to kind of an easy visual on, okay, all of these things are bad. I have these things in my house. Now, how can I swap them out? What are some healthier alternatives? So you could swap out air fresheners, plug-ins, candles, get rid of those, and grab your diffuser and an essential oil instead. So easy. And I think most of us here are Young Living members. You probably have a diffuser. It comes with a kit. And you have at least 10 oils, right? 11 oils. So grab one of those and throw it in the diffuser instead of using things like the plug-ins and the air fresheners. Plus, when we diffuse our oils, not only Do we know it's not going to hurt us? But there's some health benefits to diffusing essential oils too, right? All right. Instead of those antibacterial wipes, which are so bad, again, I would challenge you to do some research and try to find an ingredient list of what's in those because, for one, they don't make them super easy to find. And two, when you do find them, there's some pretty disturbing things in there. I've done some research on some wipes and their ingredient lists, and then I'll research what those ingredients are because, of course, I can't pronounce them. So a lot of the ingredients in those types of things are disruptors of our nervous system, and which is what our brain is our nervous system. So they have negative impacts on that, which of course leads to, negative effects on our brain. So instead of using those, Thieves makes wipes. So use a Thieves wipes or the little Thieves spray. That spray, I keep it in my purse, in the diaper bag, in my work bag, and I can spray anything and everything with that and wipe it down. So those are some healthier alternatives there. And then any and every cleaner that you have in your house, you could throw away and replace with a Thieves household cleaner. First of all, I just think that's a beautiful sight. Seeing all those cleaners, like yikes, where do you keep those? And how do you keep them safe from your kids? And then you can just narrow it down to one. You just need one cleaner. And what I love about the Thieves household cleaner is well, my daughter is taking a bath. So she just turned 2 in January. So when my daughter's taking a bath, I can clean the bathroom with a Thieves household cleaner. And it doesn't gas us out of there. Like, it's completely safe for her to be in the bathroom with me. So I can do a little bit of multitasking, which us moms like to do, right? And another thing is she can even help me. She can help me clean. She can spray things down and wipe them. And I don't have to worry about that. All right, let's talk a little bit about diet. So it's kind of cliche, but you are what you eat. You really are. And I thought this graphic was, this picture I have here was a good way to kind of illustrate that because, you can either take a left and you can eat those kinds of foods and you're going to feel and kind of perform that way, or you can take a right towards, the healthier foods and your body and your brain will perform better. So if you guys go back to the posting on Facebook of this video, I also have a link for about a 5-minute YouTube video that talks about how the food we eat impacts our brain. So I put it in that description. It's about 5 minutes long. I didn't want to include it in here because, again, I'm trying to keep this short and sweet. But go ahead and check out that video when you get a chance. It's really interesting. And the way they explain it makes it really easy to understand. So there are superfoods that are really great and help support our brains. They talk about those a little bit in the video. And this is something that I'm not going to spend a lot of time talking about today, but something if you have specific concerns or questions or interests, we can definitely talk about that individually. Or, you like I said, reach out to me. We can chat. Today, I'm just going to cover a couple key ingredients in food that I want you guys to be aware of and really try to limit or avoid if you can, as they're really not good for our brains. And the first one is sugar. I'm sorry, you guys. You've probably heard that sugar is not good for us, right? So when sugar decreases our attention span and our memory. So that's, as adults and kids. Okay, so when kids consume a lot of sugar, and then you attempt to do a challenging task like a math problem, and think about our kids in school, right? They're always doing these challenging tasks. It makes our brain's hypothalamus, which is in that limbic system, it allows the body to release a lot of cortisol. And you've probably heard of cortisol before, but that's our stress hormone. And this substance impedes our memory, which means it negatively kind of hinders it, or it negatively impacts our memory. So when children's bodies are flooded with cortisol at school, they struggle to pay attention to their lessons and they find it difficult to sit quietly. And then, of course, when their attention is elsewhere, they find it difficult to retain the information they're taught. So think about those kids that are having a hard time sitting down in school, paying attention, focusing, remembering things. Let's think about, are they eating a lot of sugar? That's one thing I really like. Let's just take a step back and think about that. So if you look at that second bullet point, children are consuming about half of their daily sugar intake or recommended sugar intake before they even get to school. So if that's what they're having before they even get to school, I mean, of course they're not going to sit through, right? So those high sugar diets can lead to changes in our gut bacteria too. And remember, we talked about the importance of that gut bacteria in our brain health. So if we eat a lot of sugar, or if our kids eat a lot of sugar, it changes that bacteria. And that's related to a significant loss of cognitive flexibility, which is like our brain's ability to adapt to changing situations. Um, it also can impair long-term and short-term memory, like we talked about. A lot of kids are eating breakfasts that are just full of sugar. You know, if you think about those cereals or bagels or cupcakes or donuts, all that. And so that's where our kid, that's where we get that stat that kids are consuming about half of their daily recommended sugar intake before they even get to school. And then by the end of the day, children have consumed about 3 times more than the recommended daily intake. So talk about, of course they're going to have a hard time sitting in school, not to mention learning anything and then remembering what they're taught. Food dyes. This is another big one that I wanted just to touch on a little bit today. So unfortunately, and this really kind of fires me up too, is the foods that we see that have a lot of food dyes in them are marketed to kids, to our kids in the United States. Think about it. Think about the stuff you see in the grocery store and even in these pictures. Like the candies and they put bright colors and cartoon characters on them, but they are just loaded with food dyes. Like, how else do you get those bright colors? That's not normal, right? So unfortunately, really unfortunately, these are marketed to our kids, and it's estimated that many kids consume about 3 to 4 times more than the recommended daily intake of these food dyes and on a daily basis. European lawmakers, so this is out in Europe, they now require a warning label on the foods there that contain artificial dyes. And this warning label lets parents know that their kids might become hyperactive if they consume the product. Yikes. There's a warning label on foods in Europe that contain food dyes. Of course, in the United States, we haven't gotten there yet. But I'm really hoping we get there, and that's kind of part of this bigger vision as well, is that we become more educated and we stop buying this stuff. We stop voting with our dollars for these products and this, I don't even want to call it food. So, of course, food dyes may cause hyperactivity and other behaviors in in kids. And if you go ahead and research this, there is some inconclusive studies about this, but there are definitely a lot of parent report that they can see a night and day difference from if they give their kid something with a food dye in it, that it's crazy. Their child is a completely different person. They have these behaviors, they're hyperactive, things like that. So I think it's definitely something to think twice about before buying or giving your kids, or something that's very, very seldom that you would give, especially if you're concerned about something like this. All right, so after hearing about those 2 scary ingredients, let's do better. How can we do better? So you can think about maybe where do you shop for some of these groceries and things that are better. Well, I'm from central Minnesota, and we have a Fresh Thyme, and I absolutely love it. Some of my friends give me a hard time that maybe I could be endorsed by Fresh Thyme because I buy just about everything there. But there's, Trader Joe's, Whole Foods, the co-ops. They have just healthier options, more organic options. They're just kind of more health conscious, I would say, overall. And then how do you shop? So do your research. Again, I'm really into empowering you and other families on how to do the research, how to find this information on your own, how to feel confident in the decisions you make. So doing research on labels, ingredients, things like that. Being skeptical, of course, not everything you read on the internet is true. So just being aware of that and being a little skeptical and digging a little deeper. Organic if possible. I know organic is more expensive and we can't all afford to buy everything organic, but kind of weighing your options and what's best to get organic. In our family, I kind of run by the rule, if we eat the skin of it, like for fresh produce, I try to buy organic for sure. But then we will also, like, as much as I can, everything else I try. So, we just do the best that we can. Of course, learning how to read labels, they can be deceiving. So, just really learning and again, doing the research, reading labels, that's something I can help you guys with as well if you want to chat more one-on-one about that. And then just being aware, like I kind of mentioned that already too. Being aware of labels, things you read, things you hear, just kind of just second guess things. Do your research. Just being aware of what's out there. So there are some additional ways to support the brain. Everything I talked about so far today are things that we should all know and try to be aware of and, you know what I mean, things like that. So here are some additional ways to support the brain. High quality supplements can be really, really good. And of course, I'm going to talk about my Young Living supplements that I love and I trust. So other than good diet, sleep, exercise, and all that stuff that we talked about, we can be taking some supplements, and our kids can too, to help support brain health. Omega-Gize is generally a really good supplement. Omega-Gize combines the power of the 3 core daily supplements. So omega-3 fatty acids, vitamin D3, and CoQ10. We talked about omega-3s and those fatty acids, right? And vitamin D. CoQ10 is also really, really good for our brains. MindWise is another great supplement. It has a high proportion of unsaturated fatty acids, omega-3 fatty acids. It also includes a memory function blend made with CoQ10, and there's some other acronyms in there, but really good stuff for our brains. And the ingredients in that have been studied for their unique benefits. So supporting the brain there too. Mighty Vites is Young Living. That's a vitamin for kiddos. That one's specifically for kids. So that has a full range of vitamins, minerals, antioxidants, and it delivers whole food multi-nutrient support for our kids' general health and well-being. All right, and then of course we have our essential oils that can help support brain function as well. So we have Brain Power. So this is a blend of high oils and sesquiterpenes, and I don't know if I said that right. But so there's sacred sandalwood in there, blue cypress, and frankincense, and these promote a sense of clarity and focus when they're used aromatically. So when we can smell them or diffuse them, that's really, really great for our brain health. Clarity has basil, rosemary, peppermint in it, and those oils are good for a sense of clarity and alertness. And then there's cedarwood, and this creates like a calming yet powerful environment when you diffuse it. So cedarwood is actually found in like grounding, the grounding blend, highest potential, and it's in Brain Power. So you can, it's a good oil to have. So everybody's brains, our kids and even ourselves, can be supported by these things. If you have specific questions or concerns, or if you are seeking additional support, feel free to reach out to me and we can definitely chat. Which leads me to, I also offer a one-on-one consulting program. So, of course, the journey to being chemical-free and having that lifestyle can be really overwhelming, especially if you're wanting to kind of really dig deep and look at every area of your life and how it could be impacting your child's health and wellness and that brain function. So as a speech therapist, as a CNHP, and a mom and a wife, and that I work with kids on a daily basis, in my training and my experiences, I developed this program to make it easier for you and for other families to be able to do this, to kind of accomplish this. So I would love, if you have questions or you're looking for some guidance, I would love to walk alongside you guys on this journey and empower you to make those confident choices. So if this is something that you're looking into, and like I said, if you have specific questions or concerns or things you want help with, this is kind of a, like a rough idea of what that program would look like. So we look at a healthy home environment. We look at your diet and nutrition, supplements and vitamins, and essential oils. So we'd really dig deep in each of these areas and figure out, what can we do to best support your child or your family or yourself or whomever it is. And like I said, we really dig deep, and it's very individualized. So it's going to be based on whatever your questions are, whatever your concerns are, and things like that. So distance is not an issue, you guys. If you don't live in central Minnesota, don't worry. We can do this over FaceTime, Zoom, Skype, over the phone, etc. With technology these days, there's really, sky's the limit. We can make it work. So you'll see also attached in this Facebook post, you will find my flyer with more information on the program, and then also my contact information will be on there too, but you will see my email is down there below. So please reach out if you guys have questions or want more information on this. And then in general, if you have questions, feel free to contact me. So there's my email, my name. You can add me on Facebook, or you can follow me on Instagram. I'm pretty active on those, and I like to connect with people that way too. So thank you guys for tuning in. I hope it wasn't too much information, but just enough to kind of give you some background. And as always, if you have questions, let me know. Thanks. Have a great day, guys.